Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. I hope you are having a wonderful weekend and a good Sunday. Last Sunday in September. Here we are. A dreary Sunday, not a fun Sunday for going out. So I have been largely in the house all day, except for, no, that's it. I've been largely in the house all day. My wife, Rachel, and my son, Carmine, they went to my mother-in-law's out on Long Island to celebrate our nephew Levy's first birthday. So I hated to miss that, but honestly, I said recently that I can no longer go to anything on Sundays because if I go to something on Sundays, especially when I have the show to prepare for, it takes me 3 days to recover from that. And then I'm not exaggerating. Between still needing to get all the show prep done, still needing to do all the household chores like garbage and recycling and things like that, and still needing to try to get at least a little bit of sleep before the show, inevitably the same thing happens every time I have to go to something on Sundays, which is I am struggling to stay awake driving home on Monday. I feel like I haven't adequately prepared for the show, and I'm rushing to get the chores around the house done. So I hate to miss a family function, especially baby Levy's birthday party. But I appreciated that my wife was very cool in terms of giving me her blessing to stay home and work on the show and take care of these errands. Still doesn't change the fact that I would have liked to have been there, but here I am. All right. A lot to get to. First, let me tell you what's coming up on the program today. First of all, Robert Guzzi says happy anniversary. This weekend, we are actually celebrating two anniversaries. Today, the 29th, is my 4-year anniversary of doing The Other Side of Midnight. So I don't know that we'll really plan much in terms of stuff because tonight, when we're on the air, technically it's tomorrow, it'll be the next day. So I don't know. Maybe I'll give it a quick mention. But yeah, today, it was 4 years ago today that I began hosting The Other Side of Midnight. And yesterday was my wife and I, Rachel and I, we celebrated our 5-year wedding anniversary. So that was certainly, it feels like yesterday. And I know Robert was at that wedding, and I know a lot of you watching were at that wedding. And we celebrated, I may talk about this a little bit on the air tonight. We celebrated by going to the movies. This was the first time that Rachel and I ever took Carmine to the movies. We went to the atrium and we saw The Wild Robot, and we had a good time. He got a big kick out of all the popcorn and candy. The movies were a little too loud for him. He would, for a good portion of the picture, would hold his hands over his ears. He's got very sensitive hearing, so he didn't love that. But he seemed to enjoy it. Said he had a good time, and we had a good time. Not a bad movie. If you have, I mean, it's geared for children, obviously, but if you have a child in your life, I would recommend it. It's called The Wild Robot. All right. Dave, or Mr. D. Orr, writes, I enjoy your radio program, more interesting than Curtis. I learned something when I listened. Thank you, D. Orr. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you to everybody that's watching. So that was yesterday. That's what we did for our anniversary. And next weekend, we're going away. We're going back to Atlantic City. We're going there for Harry Hurley's event on Friday night, his charity dinner. And maybe if any of you are around in Atlantic City, maybe I'll see you next week. Who knows? We're just staying one night, so who knows? But hopefully, just drop me a line if you do happen to be there. On Friday evening, 2 nights ago, I had the pleasure of marrying a great couple, the Vogels. That is the bride and groom there, Justin and Brittany Vogel. And there is Justin's daughter, Juliet. Excuse me. There's Justin's daughter, Juliana, and obviously Brittany's stepdaughter. So it was a great time, and everyone said they enjoyed the ceremony. Everyone said it went well, and I really, I had a great time. It was great to meet and be a part of a special moment for a great couple and meet so many interesting people who are fans of the show. So and just even meet a lot of people that weren't necessarily fans of the show. Just great people, regardless. A little far away. It's funny. I thought I was going to be okay leaving 2 hours in order to get there. It still wasn't enough time. And this is just going to New Jersey. New Jersey. So there's that. All right, rough football weekend. If you are a New York or New Jersey area football fan, the Jets just lost. I hated to see them. They had the game in the palm of their hands, but then they missed that 50-yard field goal. I mean, eventually, if you keep not being able to score any touchdowns, eventually you're going to lose. So in some respects, it's amazing that they kept the game as close as it was. Not seeing anything dazzling from Aaron Rodgers so far, although I feel like the offensive line could have done a better job protecting him today, especially. It seemed like he was constantly under pressure, got sacked a couple of times. And but in general, pretty disappointing. Now, it's interesting. I picked both the Jets and the Giants in my football pool. And in my football pool, the Giants, who played on Thursday night, they were 4.5-point underdogs. They lost by 5. So in my football pool, I lost that. But I did bet them on my Caesars Sports app. And so if you would have taken my bets and bet anywhere else, almost everywhere had the Giants getting 5.5 points. So depending on where you bet them, if you got 5.5 points instead of 4.5 points, you would have won the bet. So hopefully a lot of you got that 5.5 points and you won the bet. Mets finally won a game today. I mean, really, this has been a brutal couple of days for the Mets. And so now tomorrow we have to win one game. But I am very nervous, I must say. As a Met fan, the heartbreak is inevitable. It's coming. Does it come now? Tomorrow? Does it come in a week? Does it come in 3 weeks? I don't know. It's coming. But it is we'll see what happens. That would be the most Met thing in the world if they end up losing 2 games tomorrow and can't even win one. If you're not following it, their magic number is 1. So if they win 1 game, they can make the playoffs. That's where they are. So there's that. Of course they won today because I didn't bet on them. All right, let me tell you what's coming up on tonight's program, technically tomorrow morning. I'm going to be joined by Corey Lewandowski. Corey Lewandowski was Donald Trump's campaign manager in 2016. He's now back with the campaign. We'll chat about the campaign and how the race looks and kind of go back in time a little bit with what things were like in the year 2016 when he was Trump's first campaign manager. I'm going to analyze this Eric Adams indictment with Jeffrey Lichtman. Jeffrey Lichtman, whatever people think about him, he is a very astute criminal defense attorney, one of the best there is. So I'm going to ask him, irrespective of how he might feel about Eric Adams, if he was handling this case with the indictment as it is now, how would he feel about it? Is this a case that is untriable? Is this a case that you just beg for some sort of a plea? We'll find out. I'm going to be talking to him. And Dr. Carol Lieberman, who is a psychologist and an interesting person, she's going to join me. I'm not sure what I'm going to talk to her about yet, but she was supposed to come on maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, had begged me to come on for a while. And then we booked her. And then there was some confusion about whether she was coming on, the night that she was scheduled or the following night. And she was very apologetic and asked if we could reschedule. So she's going to come on tonight, again, technically tomorrow morning. I'm not sure which it will be. I finally finished all of the Vince McMahon documentary on Netflix. Now, I know I reviewed the first 2 or 3 parts on Chris asks, is there any AC news? The news is I'm going to be in Atlantic City next week. The event that we're going to on Friday is at the Hard Rock, and it's at Resorts, but we're staying at the Hard Rock. So I'm hoping we can I'm hoping we get some nice weather and get to walk around the boardwalk. I have used all my money for this paycheck. So maybe it's for the best, but I don't imagine that I'll have much money to gamble with. We'll see. unless you want to send stars. If a bunch of you send stars, I was going to earmark it for our cable bill. Those of you watching on Facebook, let's see, where do we have 11 of you watching on Facebook. If you send stars, I was going to earmark it for our cable bill this week because my wife and I are in a little bit of a standoff over whether to keep cable or get rid of it. She has been advocating cutting the cord for a long time. I'm an advocate for keeping cable. So I'll tell you what. So we'll our next video we'll earmark to cable. Anything you send in this video will earmark towards me gambling this. So send stars, and I promise to gamble with all of your money. All right. Cheech TJ3323 writes, "Hi Frank, for such a bright guy and for someone that knows so much about politics, why were you willing to waste your vote on RFK?" Well, Cheech, first of all, I never claimed to be a bright guy. Second, in New York's never where I live and vote. New York was never going to be a competitive state. So it's not really, I mean, I guess you could make the case that the only wasted vote in New York is a vote for Biden because he's going to win, or a vote for Trump because he's going to lose. In New York, by voting for RFK, you would have been voting to create a new party. And that was the only opportunity to create a new party under the new rules that Andrew Cuomo put in when he was governor. So I hope that answers your question. But what's not happening this year because the Supreme Court has refused to hear his case and put him back on the ballot. So he's off the ballot. So New York will actually be, think about that. When Andrew Cuomo goes around running for mayor, whenever it is, a month, 2 months, or a year from now, I hope he's asked, why did you make New York the least voter-friendly state in the country? Why did you make New York literally the least democratic with a small d state in the entire country? We are the only state in the whole country where there are only 2 candidates on the ballot for president. And it's not because candidates didn't want to be on the ballot for president. A lot of them did. But the Cuomo rules for getting on the ballot are now so stringent and so onerous that you can't qualify. So it's very frustrating, and not as frustrating as the prospect of Andrew Cuomo being mayor. God help us. God help us as a city if we elect Andrew Cuomo. If we elect Andrew Cuomo, you almost have to think, okay, whatever happens to us, we deserve it, right? Heaven to Betsy, I hope we are not going to end up with that. Richard Rubin says, because you're voting for karma. Bye-bye. Because I'm voting for karma. Bye-bye. I don't even understand that. All right. So I finally finished watching all 6 parts of the Vince McMahon documentary. Matt McCool, don't you talk about anything relevant? Well, don't you pay attention to anything that's relevant? I mean, who is the joke on me because I'm not talking about anything relevant, or is the joke on you for continuing to hang on every word that I say, both on radio and on social media? Oh, Noel Ashman checking in. Noel, if you're in Atlantic City next weekend, let me know. I'd love to see you. I know you normally hang out at the other end of the boardwalk, but if you want to make your way down to our end of the boardwalk, I'd love to see you and hang out a little bit. All right. Andy Monfred. Hey, Frank. Hey, Andy. So I'm not going to repeat the things about this documentary that I said on the radio, but I thought it was terrific. I really, just from an entertainment, is it perfect? No. It's not even, in fact, who am far from an expert, caught many factual errors. By the way, those of you that are watching, please be so good as to give us a like, comment, and share, because that will help in terms of people discovering this video cast. So I thought it was incredibly entertaining, incredibly well done. I really enjoyed seeing a lot of this footage, some of which I've not seen before, other footage that I had not seen in literally decades. You know what? There's a lot more that I would have liked about Vince McMahon in the documentary. I would have liked to have learned more about his childhood. I would have liked to have learned more about him, really, his relationship with Linda, and as it stands now, with all these affairs that he has admitted to. Why does she stay with him with all these affairs? Is that just kind of the arrangement they have? They didn't really get into that. I'm not going to spoil much of what they did get into, but I thought there was some interesting stuff. On the whole, they didn't get into Vince's other business endeavors, especially his early business endeavors, namely the promotion of the Muhammad Ali Antonio Inoki fight and his promotion of the Evel Knievel event, which on closed circuit television, which really in some ways set the stage for him being able to run WrestleMania on a closed circuit. So I was disappointed they didn't get into that. I was disappointed in a couple of the factual errors. Other than that, I mean, this was so good. It was so well done. There are some people in there that I wouldn't have put in there, but I didn't make the movie. I didn't make the documentary. I was so sad when it ended because there was so much great stuff. I drove my wife crazy with this all weekend because I was hoping that she would hear some of the documentary and then want to engage with it and talk about it and watch it with me. But instead, it was just the opposite. She kind of just would get annoyed every time I would sneak this on. So after she went to bed last night, after watching the Mets lose, I watched the last part of the documentary. It's really more a history of the World Wrestling Federation and less a history of Vince McMahon. Obviously, there are so many aspects of those two things that are intertwined, but not entirely. So I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. Again, not perfect. A lot of stuff that's inaccurate, a lot of stuff that's not in there. But the footage alone, absolutely worth watching. Absolutely worth watching. As far as I'm concerned, if you're interested in either Vince McMahon or pro wrestling, but I think it's watchable. And this is why I was sorry that my wife didn't see that it was on and then get hooked. I think it's watchable even if you're not a wrestling fan. Maybe not. But in terms of production value, 5-star. I mentioned the dispute my wife and I are in now about whether or not to get rid of cable or not. She is strongly making the case to get rid of cable. I love cable, and I would not like to get rid of it. But if there's anyone watching that wants to comment about whether you've taken the plunge and gotten rid of cable, let me know how you watch stuff now. For instance, I really like New York One. Is there still a way to watch that? I really like watching Michael Smerconish on CNN on Saturday mornings. Is there a way to watch that? I really enjoy watching Bill Maher's show. Is there a way to watch that? Obviously, the things that I watch most when it comes to television are the New York Mets football. As you can see, that I don't want to get in trouble with the NFL, as AC Mike did. He was actually suspended for showing portions of the game. You got the 49ers game on now, and pro wrestling, right? So is there a way to watch all of that without cable? Because if there is, then I have very little argument. But it's there's a big expense. So that's kind of where we are now. Comment if you've dropped cable, if you've ditched cable, and let me know how it's worked out for you. You know what I've noticed? These computers these days have no CD drives. I've been trying to find this. Oh, hey, there's I'm not sure if that's Sacco or Vanzetti, but I've been trying to find this footage that I have of an interview that I did with Catherine Crosby from the year 2003 when I was hosting Morano Vision. At the very least, a photo of that. I think it's from March of 2003. And I've been trying to go through some of my photos that I have on CD, and this computer doesn't have a CD drive, so I had to bring it to work. Why do they do that? Why do they start making computers that don't have things that people still want, like CD drives? Oh, Gina Bina checking in. I am Joe Pignon checking in on Instagram. Joe Pignon was Chuck Schumer's last opponent for U.S. Senate, and I hear Joe's a big TV pundit these days. I hear he might be looking to get into the radio business these days. So big shout out to Joe Pignon. PR Cision, I think that's Anthony Rapacciolo, who didn't vote with me. A very surprising move at the community board meeting last week. But hey, it's his decision. I'm sure Councilman Borelli and the borough president appointed him for a reason. It says OTT all day. I think that's over. What is OTT? I'm not sure if that's cable or if that's non-cable. when it's one of the two. Robin Giordano, I love cable. Everything else is mostly streamed. Yeah, there you go. Again, I guess the joke's kind of on me because if I win the argument to keep getting cable, I mean, we get our phone, internet, and cable. I think it's $185 a month. So, I mean, if I lose this argument, then maybe we save a little bit of money. Speaking of television, I'll tell you what I'm going to be watching in 90 minutes, unless I'm asleep. And I am hoping to take a little bit of a nap before the show tonight. The Simpsons. The Simpsons, I was a fan of back in the Conan O'Brien era of that show. And tonight, there's an interesting episode. It has to do with Bart's birthday. But I think this has been widely reported. I understand that Conan O'Brien is returning to The Simpsons tonight for the first time in 36 years. I don't know if he's coming back just as an air talent or if he's coming back as a writer or if it's both. So I'm excited. I'm a big fan of Conan O'Brien. And The Simpsons, this was one of my least talked about stories of the year last year. The Simpsons has actually gotten good again. So I'm looking forward to Conan's return on The Simpsons tonight. All right. As far as my show tonight, we got Jeffrey Lichtman on the Eric Adams scandal. We have Corey Lewandowski, Donald Trump's former campaign manager, on the campaign. We have Dr. Carol Lieberman on an issue to be determined. I'm not sure. Maybe they've called her the terrorist psychologist before, so maybe I'll have a discussion with her about how to have discussions with children going into the 1-year anniversary of the October 7th attacks. If you want to send stars, please be so good as to send stars, which I will use to gamble in Atlantic City next month. If you have not yet done so, please subscribe to this Facebook page. You can become a subscriber for the very reasonable price of 99 cents a month. You can go to subscribe, facebook.com/become supporter/Morano fan. Or as Brandon Lord is always so good to point out, the shortcut there is just under the comments box, click the overview button, then scroll to the bottom and click the subscribe button. And I think most people that do subscribe would say that it's worth it. If you are a subscriber now, you would have seen the video that I posted last week of the foot race that I injured my calf in, where I beat my neighbor Greg like that, and I lost my shoes halfway through. You only get that as a subscriber. I'll tell you what, I am still working on getting if you're watching on YouTube, there is the video of my last foot race against Mike Beck, who now is unfortunately a convicted felon, but that's available on the YouTube. I'm going to put that up for subscribers as well. And I'm in negotiations with Mike Wolf to get the original footage from the year 2010 of the foot race that I had with Joe Borelli. So I am 3-0 in terms of foot races at this point. Beat Joe Borelli, beat Mike Beck, beat Greg Itzenis. It's an illustrious group that I've beat them all. And I have the calf injury to prove it. Robin, tell me what the stars are for. Yeah, Robin, you should see an option for stars. Basically, if you send stars, it's basically, I think it's $1, and it sends me 99 stars. It's basically a way for you to send me money and support the work that we're doing. Well, in this case, you're going to support my ability to gamble in Atlantic City. I mean, what am I going to do with $1? I don't know. But if thousands of you send stars, then believe me, we'll have quite a run at the craps table. So there's that. All right. November 14th, we got this big event that we're doing with Elliot Gordon at the Park East Synagogue. I hope a lot of you are going to come. If you want to come, just search Frank Morano and Elliot Gordon, and it comes right up. You can buy tickets. And we're going to do a live edition of Ask Frank Anything, and we will do all sorts of other things. You have questions about anything, we're going to go through your email tomorrow. All you have to do is email me at frank.morano@redappleaudionetworks.com. That's frank.morano@redappleaudionetworks.com. Andy Monfred says, tell Frank I got game. So be it. DJ Brink, I think that's Matt Sambolin, who recently celebrated a birthday. says Joe Borelli for mayor. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens with this mayor's race now. I'm a big fan of Joe Borelli. He's my council member. He's one of my closest friends. His son was the ring bearer at our wedding. I think he'd be a phenomenal mayor. We should only be so lucky. We go back a long time, and with three right-leaning candidates in the race, Curtis Lewa, John Tobacco, and Joe Borelli. It's not as if they're going to be siphoning off votes from one another, because with ranked choice voting, you could rank Joe Borelli first, John Tobacco second, Curtis Lewa third, or any other combination. But I think it's going to be very interesting. I'd love to see Joe as mayor. Although, I don't know if Hochul's going to remove Adams. I was certain that she would. And then Al Sharpton came out all of a sudden and said, oh, she better not remove him. And I think it's going to be very difficult for her not to look like she is, thumbing her nose at the black community and Al Sharpton by removing him. But that's still my bet, that she does remove him. It's funny. Speaking of Joe Borelli and John Tobacco, very few people know this, but Joe Borelli and I ran John Tobacco's campaign for city council. Well, I think Joe did. He got paid. But operationally, it was both of us. For city council in the special election in February of 2009. And this is a photo of Joe Borelli and I from 2009. There you see we have our Tobacco for City Council t-shirts. And there's Joe eating a sausage there. I believe we are at the King's Arms Diner after campaigning all day. And you could see how young the one and only Joe Borelli looks there. It looks like a different person. I think I largely look the same, for better or worse. There's Joe Borelli as he looks now, along with his beautiful wife, Rachel. There's Joe as he looks now. But it's so funny that here they both are talking about running again. And Joe actually ran John's campaign for city council in 2009. So it is interesting. Hey, if you want, speaking of t-shirts, if you want to get yourself either this nice WABC t-shirt or any other Frank Morano gear, go to wabcradiostore.com, click on personalities, click on Frank Morano. There's a ton of good stuff on there, including t-shirts, hats, mugs, and I have ideas for tons of other good stuff. But I am told that they're not going to start producing other stuff that I have suggested until people start buying the existing stuff that's for sale. So please go there and just go hog wild in terms of buying Frank Morano merchandise. And then hopefully that will be enough for us to get to buy other stuff. You want to join the Facebook group? You can do so. Just go on Facebook and search Morano Radio Fans and Haters, or go to facebook.com/groups/Radio Morano. If you're not an email person, if you want to text me, you can certainly send me an SMS text message at 8168-MORANO. That's 8168-MORANO. Those of you that pray, please say a prayer for the New York Metropolitans tomorrow. We could really use this playoff berth. I know I realize I'm not playing in the game, but I still feel emotionally attached to it. Gilliana says, happy anniversary to you and your beautiful wife, Frank Morano. Thank you very much. I'm not really the publicly wish my wife a happy birthday or happy anniversary thing on Facebook or on social media in general. And on Twitter, yeah, but my wife puts up with so much from me, and she's got to deal with me sharing some of the most private details of our lives with a radio audience. So I feel like the least I could do is publicly wish her a happy anniversary and express my gratitude publicly for her putting up with me. And then David in the Boogie Down Bronx wrote, said something like, serious question. You live in the same house. Why do people post things like this on social media when they could just roll over and tell the person? I've never understood this phenomenon. And I've always kind of said the same thing. I've always said that celebrities, not that I'm a celebrity, but celebrities who need to make a big deal about how great their husband and their wife are probably cheating on them. And this is their way of, I don't know what, but so I felt, all right, maybe I shouldn't be doing that. These cats are running around here. But maybe I shouldn't do that. But I feel like I don't know. I feel like I should do something publicly, even if it's because you know what it is. So many of the people that were at the wedding, all 300 or so people, they do follow. Oh, there's my wedding album behind us. I don't know, get it now, but they do follow me on social media, and I thought maybe it would bring back a memory or two from the wedding itself. So, sorry if anybody found that objectionable. Not really my style, but I don't know. Rachel deserved it. I thought so. It's that. John Paul, Frank, are you going to talk about the SpaceX rescue of the 2 astronauts? It's on my list. It's on my list, and we are going to get into that in a big way with Dr. Sky on Wednesday morning as well. John Paul says your lives need Carmine, the Prince of Staten Island. The Prince of Staten Island is on his way home from Long Island, so he is in the car en route right now. So he should be here. PR decision. You running for city council? Make your decision yet? Not yet. A lot of people have been urging me to run, so we'll see. There's a lot of other good folks that are thinking about running as well. All right. Anybody else have any other questions before we delve into the exciting world of finishing napping and preparing for the show tonight? All right. Those of you that partake, enjoy The Simpsons. Don't miss tonight's show. Jeffrey Lichtman, Corey Lewandowski, Dr. Carol Lieberman. If you can, please tune in live at 1 a.m. if you're not going to be awake. Set your smart speaker to stream at 1 a.m. anyway, because that helps our streaming numbers and makes everybody kind of stand up and take note. Thank you to all of you that have been listening for these last 4 years or any portion of these last 4 years. I'm thrilled that we're still on the air after 4 years of doing the show, now in national syndication. Big tip of the hat to all of our newer listeners in places like Chicago with WGN, St. Louis, KMOX. And those of you in Baltimore, we miss you on WCBM. I do hope you will reach out to the folks at WCBM and let them know that you are unhappy with their decision to drop our show. But we're gaining a lot of other new networks. For instance, Norfolk, Virginia, where we're on in WTAR, and a lot of other great WCCO in Minneapolis, a lot of other great stations around the country. All right. Thank you, everybody. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? Let me know. And as always, you can email me, frank.morano@redappleaudionetworks.com. Go to that Frank Morano store, WABCradiostore.com. I promise you, I don't make any money from this, but if you want to be fashionable, the best thing you could do is buy some other side of midnight gear. If you just want to help me out, if that's your concern, then send stars or be sure to subscribe. So Ellen says, how about when people wish their baby happy birthday? Unless the child is a child prodigy, it's ridiculous. They can't read. Yeah, I've probably done that too. You know, it's, in my view, it's just kind of an excuse to share a Carmine picture. I can't. I'm sure I've done that. So guilty as charged. You know what? You do all the things as a parent that you think are just so ridiculous as a non-parent. Michael Scott, Texas. Cutler, are you in Texas? No, we don't air in Texas. I'd love to air in Texas. A lot of great talk stations in Texas. So, no, I'm not. John Paul, we want Frank Morano bobblehead dolls. Write to the station and tell them you want that. Write to comments at WABCradio.com. I would love a Frank Morano bobblehead doll. There's a Dominic Carter bobblehead doll. I have one on my my desk in my office. So, you know, that is what it is. All right. If you missed any of Friday's show, catch up on the podcast. You can listen to the podcast anytime. Just go to WABCradio.com/Frank, or just go to FMWABC.com, and you could catch the show in its entirety. All right. Anything else? PR Cision says Rachel for mayor. I'm not sure if you mean Rachel Borelli or Rachel Morano, both of which would be great choices. And we'll see. We'll see whatever else happens. Thank you to everybody that watched. Please share this. Please like. Please comment. I'll see you on the radio.